We all know Richarlison's been struggling for game time, for goals, for an output, pretty much everything at Tottenham. Um, and the struggle continues. Tottenham lost, or not, well, they did lose on aggregate to AC Milan in the Champions League, but they drew 0-0 yesterday, that being Wednesday. And he had some comments about it. He had some thoughts afterwards.
1-0 aggregate.
1-0 aggregate, yeah, but they lost 0-0 yesterday. But he has some thoughts regarding his game time, Antonio Conte, Tottenham as a whole. So we have our resident Spurs fan here, Diego, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. So before we do, I just want to say welcome to the For the Badge football channel. If you've never been here before, we try to post daily football stuff, game reactions. We have a weekly podcast. If any of that stuff interests you, consider subscribing, please. We're trying to get 200 before summer. Trying. It's a big number, big goal. But we're trying really hard for that. Yeah, like I said, if you're interested in all that, please consider subscribing, look through our videos, watch other videos, blah, blah, blah. Do all that. So I'm going to read over his quote, what he said after the game. Here we go. He says, I didn't understand. I was playing well. We won against Chelsea and West Ham, and suddenly I was on the bench. I played 5 minutes against Wolves, asked the reason, and no one told me why. They asked me to take a fitness test in the gym and told me I was going to start if I passed it. Interesting. And I was on the bench, so there are things I can't understand. There's no explanation again. Let's see what he, meaning Antonio Conte, will tell us, but I'm not silly. I'm a professional that works hard every day, and I want to play. He then goes on to say, it's a pretty long quote, actually. He goes on to say, there hasn't been enough minutes given to me this season, and forgive my language, has been shit. He says, that's what I didn't understand. Referring to him being a substitute. It was going well in a good sequence with 2 wins against West Ham and Chelsea, which I had to mention that again. He says, suddenly, Christian Stellini, which is, I think, caretaker manager, right? When Conte was out.
Yeah, he's assistant manager.
Assistant manager.
Yeah.
Put him on the bench against Wolverhampton. Put him on the bench against Wolverhampton. Put him on for 5 minutes, and he asked why. So he just goes on to reiterate what he said earlier. But then he says, let's see what Conte will say tomorrow, but there are no fools here either. I'm a professional. I work every day and I want to play. There are minutes left, time left. I suffered a little with injury, but when I enter the field, I give my life. I came from 2 games well. I think that's it. I think I should have played, and I don't have to cry about it. So he says more, but nothing. I mean, pretty much just reiterating everything. So give me your thoughts as a Spurs fan here, Dale.
Honestly,
I have a lot.
Here's the thing about Richarlison. He is right when he says he gives his life. He's very passionate, and he'll do anything to win a game. And he obviously he doesn't stop off on the pitch. He continues it off the pitch. And honestly, if the fans would probably be like, bro, you got to keep this secretive. If it wasn't for the fact that we all kind of felt the same way, right. And we all kind of honestly, if you're talking to most Spurs fans right now, we want Poch back. We want Poch in. I want
to comment about later. It's a whole different thing I want to talk about. But
everybody wants Poch back, and honestly, I'm kind of joining that train a little bit. Mauricio, I love you, but just specifically about Richarlison's quotes, he's right. I mean, like,
yeah,
Son has been extremely inconsistent. He'll have really good moments where you're like, this is the guy who won the Golden Boot last season, and then he'll have other moments where you're like, he looks extremely, I don't want to say tired, just heavy touches, indecisiveness, things that last season he didn't have, and he was on fire. And so we don't know what happened. But the thing is, that's fine. You manage that. But the thing is, when you have a substitute like Richarlison to play ahead of Son and you don't, that's when the fans will start questioning, like, hey, why are we still playing an out of form Sonny? No offense to him, we all love him, and he has good games still, but for some reason, he just hasn't hit his stride yet, which is fine. But then give someone else the chance. And the fact that Richarlison has been put on the bench because they still keep playing Son. And if we're being honest, Richarlison's numbers and stuff aren't even his fault. Most of that stuff is I don't think he has ever played a full 90 minutes more than like 2-3 times. Like he's always either been subbed out when he started, or he's been subbed in and obviously not with much time left. And honestly, I think most fans agree he's a good player, and we don't really have a problem with the way he's been playing. It's just the fact that he has no time to prove what he can do. And I understand why he's upset and he's pissed off, and he's like, what the hell's going on here? And the fact that we all are not with Conte right now, we're all really against him, most of the fan base, kind of doesn't help Conte's side. And we're kind of, yeah. And it surprises me how straightforward he was. But at the same time, I completely respect it. And I really do hope the manager thing's different, but I really do hope he gets more game time because he deserves more game time.
Right.
And yeah, so I'm with him there, and all the players that Kane came out and said something, and it's just like we've done this before, where things have to change. This isn't good enough for the type of club we are. Blah blah blah. The only times I've heard that now, I've heard that so many times. I hate it when I hear it. I hate it because I know.
I think it's the psycho Tottenham at this point.
It's just, and look at. I'm not gonna lie with you on this one specific point. I can't even fully blame Daniel Levy here. As much as I would like to, I can't fully blame him because he got Conte some good players. He got him some good players, and Conte actually did better last season with a worse team than he is this season, and so honestly, like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is a conversation that I'm not surprised we're having. I am kind of surprised we're having it now, like this late in the season. Yeah. Because, I mean, me, myself, I'm a Chelsea fan, right? And I from the beginning of his 60 million move from Everton, great player, great striker. We know that. Could be one of the best strikers in the Premier League, if not the world. Since he moved, I have never was on board with it myself. I have never 100% been like, yeah, that was a great pickup for Tottenham, or maybe not great, maybe right. I've never been, this was the right pickup for Tottenham. I've said that since the beginning. I probably said it a few times on the podcast too. So this doesn't surprise me at all. Like, we knew this was going to happen. I don't know what Tottenham told him, but everyone else knew he wasn't going to be a starter, because at least going into the season, you had Harry Kane, who's one of the top strikers in the world. At the time, you had Heung-min Son, who was at the time one of the best Premier League players in the world, or in the Premier League, sorry. And we all knew he was coming off the bench. So I understand going for squad depth, but why fork out, at least if you're Tottenham, why fork out 60 million for this bench player who should be a striker, who would start for most clubs in the Premier League? And how were both parties on board with that? How was Richarlison okay with moving there and being like, yeah, I'll be a bench player? He's obviously not okay with that. I don't know what he thought. I don't understand the thought process on both sides. To an extent, I want to say it's a Spurs, not panic buy, but it's we can spend money too. Let's get Richarlison. Like one of those things. We'll worry about it later.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't completely agree with that. I can't speak for Richarlison's mentality. I don't know what on him, but I can speak for what Spurs bought him. Is that we did want someone who could fill in for Son when he wasn't playing or when he was injured or whatever, and then fill in for Kane when Kane wasn't playing. Someone that could play both. And Richarlison can play both, the left side and the middle. And that was perfect. And that's exactly why we spent the money on him. He was Everton's best player. He saved them from relegation. He was willing to leave, and he plays both positions, and he's a good player. We've seen it before. Right. He's a very good player. So that, in my opinion, it was the right buy because it filled in two spots that we desperately needed. Now, the way we've used that buy is like I guarantee you, if we would have used him correctly, the money we would have forked out for him would have been much more worth it, because he's exactly what we wanted and what we needed, and he can bring such a nice quality to the game. He'll play dirty. He'll play so dirty, and I love that about him. South Americans. There's something about South Americans, man. They're willing to play dirty, and he does.
Yeah, I mean, and like I understand that, and you want to buy. I don't want to say backup players, but I can't think of the word. It's on my tongue, but players you have just in case for injuries, things like that. That's fine. You need to have that. You need to have the squad depth, especially to try and finish top 4 every year. You need to have that squad depth. It's a long season. It's a season in which Tottenham goes deep into most tournaments they play in pretty consistently. So you need the squad depth. But I can't think of anyone else right off the top of my head, but it's not like he's the only person in the world. It's like, I don't see the point for Tottenham spending 60 million on a player who's there in case someone gets hurt. To an extent, that's not the whole reason, but um, I'm sure there are other players that we're looking at, and I think they went after Richarlison because of one, the name, and for some reason Daniel Levy gave the green light for him, and they went for him. I don't think he's the right buy. I think, like I said, anyone else could have been any other player who fits his profile. Kind of, I can't think of who off the top of my head again. But any player that fits the profile would have been okay, that you could have got for 20, 30, 40 million cheaper and repurpose that money. And then it's all backfiring on you now. Now Antonio Conte is probably going to get sacked pretty soon, unless Tottenham can turn it around, which I don't see happening for a little bit. I mean, Conte, I saw one of his quotes after the game was like, if you think we can turn it around in 13 to 14 months, you're crazy, or something like that. You can. It's no time. It's no time for excuses now. You look at Tuchel at Chelsea. Look at Ten Hag this season at United. Yeah.
No. I mean, okay. Again, about Conte. Okay, Richarlison. I understand your point. I still think I'm not completely against it. I mean, look at you're. I know we're not in the same spot, but as a Chelsea fan, you should know about buying players for a good amount of money, even if they aren't guaranteed to start. And in this case, there was a big want and a need, and sure, he probably wasn't the only one we're looking at, but it's probably the way Tottenham do their deals is if they see a good opportunity, they'll go for it, and I'm guarantee you Richarlison was one of those where Everton were like, yeah, we'll be willing to sell for this price. Tottenham know that we've been needing someone in that position, and to be honest, we wanted someone in that position because here's the thing. Before Richarlison, whenever Kane and to a lesser extent Son got injured, they would be out for maybe a couple months. And again, Richarlison could have started if Conte rotated well enough and switched up well enough. Richarlison's starting some games easily, no doubt about it. He's starting some games, giving some rest to Kane and Son because he's good enough to be starting and delivering at a high level. That's why we spent the money on that for that reason because we know we could trust him when he starts, and also for the fact that if ever Kane or Son get injured, we don't start panicking and we're like, oh, we only have Fernando Llorente at strike, which don't get me wrong, Fernando Llorente is a legend. But my point is, we're having someone like Richarlison that we know we spent good money on because we know what he does. That's why I actually don't I think the money was fine. I think the player was fine. It's just the way that we've gone about rotating this team and so he hasn't gotten the right minutes. He's upset about it. And then the way Conte has approached it has just been all wrong. Yeah. And like Conte from last season was saying the same thing he's saying now, but we've regressed while he's saying it. So like last season we got top 4, we snuck in top 4, and he's saying like, yeah, we did good, but we can, we still need time. And we're like, the fans are like, we get it. Now we've regressed and he's still saying the same thing. So naturally for us, we're like, okay, this doesn't add up now. What do you mean? You say we need time to improve little by little, but now we've gotten worse. Yeah. So like, what the hell? What's going on now? And Conte he just isn't providing that reassurance and that. And let's be honest, we all know he was already kind of iffy about taking the job, and now he's been pretty clear. And there's been other factors. I don't know how much you know about this, but like it's been pretty apparent that he misses his family in Italy. He was very like he'll go there on breaks to go with his family, hang out with them. He's very homesick, and that kind of, there's just different factors that are kind of all coming together and just saying like, yeah, he kind of wants to just end the job, and not particularly because he doesn't. I'm sure if he could be given time, he would, but considering all the factors and how poorly it is going right now, I don't think it is going to end in an extension in any way by the end of the season. No. And if we're being honest, like when we're idealizing Pochettino a lot because he had his flaws, but that man was Tottenham through and through, and nothing gives you more pride than knowing that your manager actually wants to freaking manage you. And when Conte is giving doubts on whether he wants to even continue at this point, when we still have at least another 2 months in the season, it doesn't make us want to support him anymore. And so I guarantee you hear most fans agree with what Richarlison said, and we're all frustrated. And we kind of all want Pochettino back. We kind of want him back. I mean, there's been rumors about Luis Enrique, which I think is an interesting thing. We could talk about that another time because that's more in depth. But at the end of the day, we want someone different because right now it's just frustrating when you have a guy saying the same things he's saying last season, but he hasn't made any progress and in fact just gone back and gotten worse. That doesn't inspire confidence in any way.
Yeah, I think going back to the Chelsea thing, like in the price, you know, because like of course I'm a Chelsea fan. Like we buy,
Yeah,
it's us in City that buy players for depth that aren't going to get game time, right? And more often than not, we buy them in hopes of getting it, planning to start them, and then it just doesn't work out. Sometimes, blah blah, um, which is fine. I mean, of course I know that, but Tottenham don't do that, and that to me that's why I bring it up because like we can do that, City can do that, Tottenham can't do that. Tottenham are not the team right now that because they're just not shelling out the money as we do. So it's just not logic. It's not logistically. It's just you can't be buying squad players for 60 million like Tottenham did again, right?
well,
I'm
that's
sure
that's the thing. He shouldn't be a squad player.
Yeah,
He
I know.
should be that guy. He should be a fringe first team player that's pushing his way into the starting 11. If he's in good form, maybe obviously we're never dropping Kane, but maybe he starts on the right where Kulusevski's having a bad game or Stone's having a bad game. So
Yeah.
I completely agree with you, and I can give you some names right now where I think what you're saying right now is exactly what we did and we messed up. But I genuinely think just Richarlison was mishandled so poorly, and if we handled him correctly, I don't think we were talking about this. He's not a flop either. I generally don't think he's a flop. We saw him at the World Cup. We know what he can do. That was only 2-3 months ago, when he was starting. So we need he needs to start. He needs to start, and I guarantee you, he's going to show exactly why you need 60 million. And if I'm being honest with you, with Son and Kane both hitting their 30s, Richarlison's mid-20s, 25, 26. He wasn't just for like, oh, quickly we need someone. He's also someone that we like, okay, we can rely on him for several years and get good production out of him. And that's why I'm defending his price tag and his role in the team. And I just think I think that's why I'm backing him here. But if you want, I do agree with you. We've done that in the past. Well, not necessarily, but like we can talk about, I don't know, Ndombele. I mean, like he again wasn't supposed to be a role player. He was supposed to be a starting midfielder, but he had other problems. And so there's our 60, 70 million we spent, and he's at loan on Napoli now. So I think it's more the fact that we tend to buy, we'll buy opportunities that are good for us because we can't just go race for the biggest players in the world. But then when we do spend big, very few times has it been a good pickup. I think the best was recently, and at least recently I can think of, is like Romero, who has actually been one of the bright spots this season. Oh, besides the red card, but has been one of our bright spots this season. But it's just there's a lot of things going wrong, and I think that's why everybody thinks of Poch in the glory days of him when he is Tottenham. And so we want that guy who we know will fight for us no matter what, and he is our DNA. He's what we want.
What strikes me is like I totally get the whole Kane and Son entering their 30s. Richarlison's a good pickup for that time, when they leave and blah blah blah. And bringing Poch back, I get that and all. I think it'd be great for Tottenham, especially in this market right now for managers. However, I will also at the same time say there is such a reluctancy from Tottenham to admit that this era of Tottenham is almost over and that you almost need a revamp. To an extent for me. Like you said, ideally for me, Kane and Son, give them 1 or 2 more years, let them go. Like and then you can bring Richarlison in, you can use whatever money you have to rebuild around Richarlison, blah, blah, blah. But Tottenham needs to either full send that or not do anything. And like I said, Harry Kane, I think is one year left on his contract. You have to explore the option. Let's get rid of him, sell him this summer for whatever money we can get, blah, blah, blah. Any players you want to sell, and then just redo the whole thing. Because I totally understand. You want Harry Kane to win something. You want Son to win something. You want to see them lift some trophy that's not the Audi Cup. At the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, who were trying to rival Arsenal and Chelsea and become one of the best teams in the Premier League, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to happen anymore. It could have happened. Practically wasted the opportunity. That's done. Cut your losses, restart. I understand the loyalty. I just want to see the win. It's not going to happen anymore. It's just not. And I'm sure some fans are okay with that. Some fans are not. The Tottenham board is obviously not okay with that. And I understand giving them more chances because they're still very good. They still have chances to win stuff and running low. And if you don't do that, you keep. I doubt Harry Kane stays for 3-4 more years, but let's say he does. You keep Harry Kane. You keep Son 3-4 more years. They're both in their mid-30s. And then, okay, now let's restart. Richarlison's late 20s, if not going into his 30s. And then you have 2 years, 3 years maybe with him. So
I think I partially agree with you, and I partially disagree. So I agree with the fact that, like, for example, Kane. First of all, Kane is not leaving the Premier League. I can tell you that right now, 100%. No. He's not leaving the Premier League. With that being said, will he be joining a team that more likely chance of winning the Premier League? Probably. Yeah. I think the chances of us losing him this summer are pretty high. Probably not as high as that one summer with City coming in. But they're pretty high, and they're rising every game.
If the right team comes in, then
exactly, right team, right money, So with that being said, I saw sign a new contract like a year or two ago. So he's the kind of guy who's going to stay. So he's not going to leave. We do have a good young group of players that. Like Kulusevski and Romero, and we have really talented midfield youngsters. And we're getting my boy, Destiny Udogie, the wonder kid from Udinese. But with that being said, there's plenty of spots we need to improve. But this is where I think it's very, very important that the spots that need to be improved on, like some of the defenders, the goalkeeper, probably another midfielder, those spots, if we improve them correctly, we can stay in contention for probably top 4. I don't know. It's hard to say because so many other teams are still very inconsistent right now, but probably top 4 contention. I don't know if we can guarantee that in any way, shape, or form, but we can stay that. We can at least try to aim for that and a trophy. But here's the thing. That's a huge if, because we've got a few right buys, don't get me wrong, a few purchases have been right, but there are plenty of times where we haven't. And so when I say that we get the right positions improved on, I actually don't think I think we can still stay in a hopeful mood.
Yeah.
But that's a huge if. And with someone like Daniel Levy at the helm, it's I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I can tell you right now who we should go, what position we should go get. And I think we can be in such a good spot to move on from Kane if he does leave, and move on to a new start in our era, but still stay at a top level. We can do that. It's possible to make that transition. We've made some good purchases already. Pedro Porro is an excellent wingback. Romero is an excellent defender. We have those players to make that transition. We just need those finishing touches to really get that team going. And but that's me being extremely hopeful and trying not to think about the opposite way, which is where we don't make the right purchases, we don't get we don't make the right moves,
and you never know what's on them.
We end up falling out. We never know. And honestly, most likely it'll be a bit of both, because that's what it's been for the past few years. We do some right things, we do a lot of bad things, and we end up in the same spot every year.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I can say with Tottenham is, like, it's either they take too long. Like, that process, Tottenham's way of buying right players takes too long for them to want to they have to speed it up, have to quicken it if they want to take advantage of Harry Kane's once in a generation level English striker and so on and blah blah blah. because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
They're running out of time.
Yeah.
Okay, we're already at like 25 minutes, so
Oh yeah.
I'm just gonna call it there. We can talk more about it on our Sunday podcast that comes out Monday. So if you want to hear more about Tottenham, blah blah, we already have a few Tottenham videos up from a month or two ago, from that when they were the big talk. Again, so if you want to go watch more of those, see what our opinions are regarding them, please consider watching those. If you liked the video, consider liking it. If you have any opinions about Richarlison or Tottenham or Daniel Levy, Antonio Conte, whatever, leave them in the comments. We love reading them. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Hopefully we'll see you guys again in another video. Yeah, so we'll see you guys next video.